Hey y'all, it's Brody, and today I am here with a discussion video that I've been wanting to film for a while. Like, before I even started my channel, this was something where I was like, if I ever make a book channel, this is something I want to talk about. So if you haven't figured out by the title, this is a discussion video about the term own voices and the problem that I have with that term. If you're not aware, the term own voices was coined by author Corinne Dalvis back in like 2015 to specifically describe a book in which the author and the main character share a marginalized identity. An example of this is John Green and Asa from Turtles All the Way Down both having OCD, or Angie Thomas and Star from The Hate U Give both being African American women. I will link Dalvis's website in the downstairs, as well as an Own Voices Q&A that is on the website. I did check through some of that, and it didn't really address the concerns that I have with Own Voices. And the concern that I have with Own Voices is the way that we as a community relate the term with queer stories, queer authors, and queer reviewers. This is what makes me mad about the term own voices, is the fact that I feel like, because it's 2019, you know, like Haley Kiyoko is gay Jesus, and we have all of these queer mainstream things happening, we often forget that there are people who are still in the closet. If you're not aware, I grew up in a very small Alabama town, super conservative, super homophobic. I came out in like 2013, which was only 6 years ago. That's not that long ago. And I received death threats, physical assault against me. People would throw food at me at lunch. People would throw things at me on the bus. People would tell me, if you don't kill yourself tonight, then we will come to your house and kill you. And that was just 6 years ago. That wasn't that long ago. There are family members who I still have issues with, or not that I have issues with, but that have a problem with me being gay. There are people in my community who would not talk to me after this happened. It was rough, and that's a story for a different time. But the point I'm trying to make is, coming out is still hard, and in a society where it's so mainstream to be a part of the queer community, which is an amazing thing. I'm so happy that we're getting representation. I feel like it's hard to remember that there are still people who are not comfortable being out. People may be in the closet due to fear of losing family members. They may be scared to lose friends. They may be scared for their life. There are people who are being murdered for being outwardly queer. And that, you know, it's just none of our fucking business what anyone's sexuality or, you know, gender is. Unless they choose to share that with us, then that is none of our business. Someone could have 1,000 reasons for keeping their, you know, preferences, their sexuality, whatever. They could have 1,000 reasons for being secretly queer. It could be, you know, that they just haven't come to terms with it, that they are questioning it. There are so many reasons, and no one owes us a damn explanation. It's like I said, yes, being out is becoming more socially acceptable, but there was a neo-Nazi protest at a pride parade that had a police escort. This month, there are things going on in 2019, in Pride Month, that show that it is still not completely safe to be queer. And there's a lot to get into. I'm going to calm down. I'm going to break down into points what I want to say, because I don't want this to become like a rambly, ranty video. Scared of discrimination, which is totally a thing. Discrimination in the workplace. We also know, everyone who is a champion for diverse books knows how hard it is to find marginalized stories. It's a lot easier now than it was, you know, 10 years ago, but it's still difficult for authors to break into the business. There was an article that just came out that were talking about how there were more children's books about animals than there were children of color. One thing I wanted to talk directly about was an article written by Adam Silvera. He is the author of 4 books. His debut novel was More Happy Than Not, which the article directly talks about. How it was a struggle for him to get published, and there were so many rejections, saying, well, if you would make your main character heterosexual and white, then we can publish it. And he said no, because he wanted to stay true to his heart. And there's also the issue of how publishing houses seem to be viewing own voices as a trend in the young adult world. About a year ago, I would say, I was on Twitter, and I saw, it was like a pitch event, you know, like how there's like the hashtag DV pit. I don't believe it was that one, but it was something else. It was an event similar to that. And an author was pitching their book about a bisexual trans character. And the person had replied. It was an agent or something like that, some agent, editor or something. And they were saying, well, I won't look at it unless it's own voices. Are you trans? And the author was like, that's not something I feel comfortable discussing on here. And the agent slash editor slash whatever it was refused to let it drop and kept pestering the author about their gender identity, and it was just, it was very uncomfortable. And the fact that there are authors who feel the need to come out, the pressure that's put on them by, you know, their agents and their publishers and stuff to come out, simply to have the label of own voices is a problem. And then there's the issue of the term not being properly applied because readers don't do enough research sometimes. If you've watched, like, my last 3 videos, you've seen me talk about The Lost Coast by Amy Rose Capetta. This book has all kinds of queer rep in it, but the 2 specific ones that I want to talk about in this video are the bisexual representation and the non-binary representation. I did not know until researching on their author page that Amy Rose Capetta was both non-binary and bisexual. As I was reading this book, I had no idea that it was own voices, because you can't assume things. So because I did not know until I did research that Capetta was, you know, bisexual and non-binary, that book, to me, cannot have own voices representation for being bisexual and being non-binary. Until I knew that John Green had OCD, Turtles All the Way Down was not an own voices OCD book to me. See, and that's the problem. Take readers who don't do any research into the author, who don't know, they don't follow the author on Twitter, just casual people who go to the bookstore and pick up books. They don't know that this is a thing. They don't know if the author is homosexual or, you know, whatever. They don't know. And I think that's another thing I have a problem with, clearly, is, I feel like, because it's 2019, 2019, Haley Kiyoko is gay president Jesus, and all of this stuff, I feel like we think that authors owe us this stuff that is none of our business. I understand saying that authors should be positive role models and this and that, and if that's something that they want to take on, then that's great. But they don't owe us that. The only thing an author has to do is write books. We don't have to know anything about the author's personal life. We don't have to know anything about the author's sexuality. We don't have to know anything about the author's gender. Because they don't owe us that. And throughout this entire thing, the point that I want to get across is I don't have a problem with saying this book is own voices. What I have a problem with is saying this book is not own voices. I've mainly talked about authors, you know, potentially being in the closet, reviewers potentially being in the closet, and saying, well, this review isn't own voices, excludes people who are in the closet. Saying that this book is not own voices excludes authors who are possibly in the closet. Take me. Okay. I started BookTube as a non-binary person, but it took me a while to realize that I was non-binary. It took me a while to come to terms with the fact that I was non-binary. So, had I reviewed The Lost Coast with non-binary representation before I was out as non-binary, you folks wouldn't view this as an Own Voices review, even though that's something that I'm dealing with. If I had reviewed More Happy Than Not, you wouldn't view that as an Own Voices review, had I not been out as gay. Do you see what I'm saying? So my problem is not saying this book is Own Voices. I think Own Voices was intended to be a wonderful thing to help uplift authors who are marginalized, who can tell these true to their experience stories. But I have honestly seen people on this platform and in this community saying that they refuse to read a book that is not Own Voices. Everyone loves to quote Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli, and the movie Love, Simon, which, yes, it was amazing, was one of my faves, saying, straight is not the default. Why do we act like straight is the default? Why do we act like allo, cisgender, heterosexual is the default when it comes to authors and reviewers? You can quote this all you want, and I saw all of you quoting it on Twitter and whatnot, talking about it whenever the movie came out. But why are you acting like it now? This isn't a call-out. This is just saying we need to keep in mind that people cannot be straight until proven otherwise. Are usually in the closet for some reason due to homophobia or transphobia or acephobia, biphobia, any kind of hate directed towards this group. And by pushing this narrative of straight until proven queer, that straight is the default, the community is contributing to that. And it's something I've noticed for a long time, and it genuinely bothers me. When it comes to Own Voices, yes, I 100% agree. We need to support Own Voices authors. We need to support people who are telling these stories that are true to life. But we also need to remember that people might not feel safe coming out. People might not feel, like they know for sure. They might still be questioning. They might not want to put a label on it. They might just not want to tell people. And that's perfectly fine. We as a community love to talk about how we are so supportive and we are so uplifting of marginalized voices. But we need to remember that there are some people who are still possibly being oppressed in their home life, in their personal life, in their circle of friends, to themselves. They are still in the closet, and we don't need to shove them further in. As I said, I'm completely fine with saying, this is Own Voices. What I'm not okay with saying is, this isn't Own Voices. I hope that I was able to get my points across concisely to where you understand. This is my first discussion video, so it's probably a little rusty. And I understand that this is kind of a hot button topic right now, especially during Pride Month, of all things, to talk about this. This isn't something I'm really willing to discuss further, as far as I don't want this to become an issue. I don't want this to become drama. I don't want this to become tea, because it shouldn't be. It's just the truth, By doing this can be hurtful to people who are in the closet. That's not a controversial opinion. I'm just coming from a place of honesty. The way that we use this term is exclusionary, and it's not okay. And I believe that we need to be more careful with the way that we do things. We don't want to keep pushing people who are in the closet even further in the closet. And that's it. Hope you got something from this video. As I said, I hope that I was clear enough and concise enough. If there are any questions that you have, please leave them in the comments and we will, discuss this. But I'm not going to allow the comment section to turn into an inflammatory place. I don't believe in deleting comments, but I also don't believe in dealing with other people's bullshit. So please keep it respectful. I hope you have a wonderful whatever it is, wherever you are. I will see you folks next week for another video. Alright, bye!